Hey, everybody. Hello, this is Gilpin, and I'm doing a series of interviews with music educators all across the country. And I basically just want to bring ideas and suggestions for remote teaching to all of you out there who are struggling with ideas. This is a positive platform, and I just want to reach out and help other people. Today, I have music educator Dan Andersen, who teaches at Center Grove Middle School Central in Greenwood, Indiana, and that is just south of Indianapolis, where I live. I've known Dan and for his excellence in teaching both high school and middle school and his work with the teacher organizations here in Indiana. He's very, very respected. He's published, and I'm going to have him tell you a little bit more about his career in teaching. Hello, Dan. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. This is a great opportunity. I think.
Yeah, absolutely great. All right. Why don't you fill in all the blanks of who you are and what your current teaching and all of that.
Okay. Well, I could go back all the way to high school. I went to Bishop Luers High School, and I don't know if you know the name Father Fred or Bishop Luers contest, but he was my high school choir director. And the end of my junior year, I said to him, I think I want to go into music. And he said, well, you better teach because you're not going to be singing for a living. It wasn't a motivational conversation. It was a matter of fact. My voice really didn't develop until I was in college, and people started, that's when I started getting gigs, and I was like, what's wrong with y'all? But that passion for teaching, that came from him and from other teachers at Bishop Luers High School. And so I got into teaching, and my whole goal was to be the best high school choir director that I could be. And it didn't take long till I figured out that those kids are the important thing. And music was just a medium to reach kids. And so for the last 37 years, I've been trying to affect kids in a positive way, be a good role model for them. I was at a small school in Northeast Indiana, Eastside Junior Senior High, for 4 years. Had a great experience cutting my teeth up there. I was at New Haven High School, which is just outside of Fort Wayne, for a number of years. And then I moved to Center Grove High School and was in the belly of the beast of the show choir world right there, and learned an awful lot about that part of choral teaching, but also developed other choirs. And we took that program from, I think we had 4 choirs when I started, to 9 choirs over 7. We had 500 kids in choir. We had men's choirs, women's choirs, jazz choirs. We just had the whole gamut. But the downside of that was I was at school as much as I was at home or more. And with my own 4 kids, it started to really conflict. And so there was an opportunity at the end of that 7th year for the middle school position. Their second position there was going to be a full-time job. And so I talked with my oldest 2 daughters, who were going to be a senior and a junior that next year. And I said, I'm thinking about leaving, but I'm not going to do this without your permission. And they both said, we're going to lose you as a choir director, but we'll gain you back as a dad.
Oh, wow.
So that's all I needed to hear about that. And so for the last 19 years, I've been doing God's work and teaching 6 through 8 middle school choir, and I can't imagine not doing it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so we currently at Center Grove Middle School Central have 7 choirs. We have 540 students in choir. So it's more than half the building is in choir alone. We're really lucky in that we have 2 full-time choir directors and a full-time accompanist. I know that's a great position to be in.
Yeah, you've got a lot of teachers going to watch this going, oh my gosh, if I just had, if I could play the piano, it'd be great, or something,
Right. But one of the things that we've done to make that happen was our corporation requires every 6th grader to be in a performance music class, whether that's choir, band, or orchestra. And, the more we learn about what a performance music class does to the brain and how it helps them learn and the connections that it makes, the more sense it makes to require that. And we typically have about a 90% retention from 6th grade into 7th grade and into 8th grade. So that's why the big numbers. And the daughter that I told you about that was going to be a senior, that the year that I left, she now is my co-teacher.
Oh, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
she's one of the most dynamic and outstanding choral directors in the state. I mean, I learned from her every single day.
Oh,
She was at Whiteland High School for a few years, where she developed a jazz program there, and the All-State Jazz, the new All-State Jazz competition that they had, her group was like the honor choir for the first 3 years. So
okay.
awful proud of her. Not that you can tell her anything.
Yeah, it runs in the family, obviously.
Well, teaching does, because all three of my daughters are teachers.
Yeah.
Different levels. And
that's great.
so our e-learning situation right now that we're dealing with is our corporation has teacher days Monday and Tuesday of each week, where we get to prep and grade tests and things like that. And then the kids are in the e-learning Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so we spend that time on Monday and Tuesday preparing the lessons or the modules, and we use Canvas. I know some people use Google Classroom.
Okay.
Our method of getting information to them is through Canvas, which I find fairly user-friendly. I've learned an awful lot about that as an old guy trying to figure out technology. But so we set up modules each day that they can go into, and they do the work that we put in there. And then they either submit, or because some days we don't have an actual assignment that they have to do, it's just practice or whatever. So that's kind of where I am with that. It's the learning curve. Well, I hear a lot of people say, "Hey, we're building a plane in flight." I'm telling you, we're designing the cockpit in flight because of the technology that we have to use. So it's been. I'm not sure that fun is the right word, but it's a great challenge, and it really has been enjoyable, most of it.
What have you learned about your own teaching, from doing this?
Well, certainly that you're never too old to learn something, and that's really the way that I've spent my career. I go to conferences every year. I'm lucky now to be presenting at conferences, the state conferences, the regional ACDA conferences, but I go to sessions also. I was at a fabulous session up in Milwaukee about the female changing voice. And, as someone who's invested my whole career in the adolescent voice, there's been very little information about the female changing voice. So
who was that? Do you know who it was?
I can't think of her name right.
Because I know Lynn Gackel has a wonderful book on that, and she does some workshops on the female voice. That's it. Wait a minute, let me see it.
Is it backwards?
No, that's it. That's Lynn Gackel. Yeah, perfect. It's a wonderful book.
I've got it earmarked and stuff. That's an incredible resource. And sorry for turning around. The thing that I like about it the most is finding Ophelia's voice and opening Ophelia's heart. And the heart for a middle school girl is so guarded, and to be able to reach their heart is the thing that will actually let them open up their voice.
Yeah.
That's been a mission field also, really, if I kind of look at it that way. But back to the question, the learning about technology and how to incorporate that in my teaching, I've been doing that over the last, 5 years. We've had one-to-one kids have had an iPad in their hands.
Oh, okay.
Our challenge was how to use it, but not misuse it or overuse it. And so initially, I think our school, here's your iPads, teach. And so we're like, okay, what do we do? And so we kind of went overboard and then back. And I think we're on a kind of a level playing ground where we use it and then we put it under their chairs and we sing. And there's times when we will put music on the iPad, but I much prefer to have music in their hands. It's like a hymnal.
Mm-hmm.
That physical, having the hymnal in your hand, having the music in your hand connects it more to you, I think, emotionally.
Yeah.
But how do we do this remotely then? So for me to figure out how to upload an assignment and to have it be gradable, or is it a recorded assignment? All those things I've had to learn, and so that's been a process.
Right.
luckily, I've got a great support team. Our band director, Sam Fritz, at our middle school, who I have the most respect for. He's one of the top middle school band directors in the state of Indiana. He's helped out a ton. My daughter, obviously, my son-in-law, and my other daughter also teach in the building where I teach.
Okay.
And they are really good with the technology.
Oh, that's great. It's great to have, I know a lot of teachers, they do have a good support system. There's others that, probably feel very alone. And we'll talk about that. Have you discovered anything new with your students and how they're learning now? Anything surprising or?
Well, here's the things that I'm finding out about them. They're dedicated. And again, we're not going to get 100% of every kid, because there are kids that will sit in our classrooms and do as little as they can, as much as we try to motivate them. So in this opportunity, it's hard to reach them because they can't see us or feel our presence. But really, most of our students, they're dedicated. They want to do their best. So the stuff that they turn in, the assignments, the vocal recordings, they want to make sure that it's their best. They are refusing to let technology issues get in their way or stop them. One of the funny things is when we're in the classroom and a kid comes up with a technology problem, I say to them, if this was Fortnite and your iPad was doing this, what would you do? And they're like, oh, because they'll try anything to fix their technology to play their game. And so they've got the ability to do that. So there's that drive, that stick-to-itness. And I'll tell you what, the biggest thing, they miss being whipped together as much as I miss being with them.
Yeah, that is really a common theme, a common thread. All the interviews I've done, a lot of this opportunity is the kids just want to be with you, even if it's in a Zoom meeting or, they just want to be and react and talk about it. But it sounds like you've laid a really great, foundation of relationships with your kids. And I think a lot of teachers are discovering how good that is they have, or maybe the ones they don't have a good relationship with. Lots of surprises like that where, you're not going to, all you can do is your best right now. You just do what you can do.
Yeah. And I will tell you, back to what I learned about myself is I've always known that the students were the most important thing to me. Music was just a medium to be able to reach students and to be able to affect their lives and impact them in a positive way.
Yeah.
For me, that's air, that's water, that connection with the kids every single day. I'm finding it hard to live. It's hard to exist. There's days when I pull up to school in the morning and I park my car, we've got like a 6-foot incline up to the back door. And there's days when it's my 37th year of teaching, and I look up and I'm like, I don't know if I can make it up there. And I trudge up there, I go inside and I get my stuff ready, and then the doors open and the kids come in off the bus, and it's like Christmas morning.
And you immediately, you've got that energy and right.
I see their faces, I feel their energy, I smell them.
Yeah, it's middle school.
But that feeds me, and not being fed, it's really, really difficult right now. So I just need this all to get past. I can't wait for the start of the next school year.
Yeah. What do you think will be different, in your own teaching when you actually get them together in a room? Do you think anything's going to change the way you'll do it?
I certainly won't take it for granted. And I know that I'll be able to incorporate the technology a little bit smoother and easier without letting it overtake. And I think I'll know what they're going through when they're not in my room. I think because based on how they're reacting to the assignments that we're doing, and being able to listen to every single student a couple times a week, that's eye-opening. I mean, how an opportunity to listen to every single student, especially in our program where we have such large choirs. Our 7th grade choirs, one of them has 100, and that's the small choir.
Wow.
The other seventh grade choir is 107, and they're equal balanced, boys and girls. And
Hmm.
there's these huge choirs of kids sitting in front of me, and for me, every day I'm concerned about, am I letting somebody slip through the cracks? Because we have so many kids that come in, they sit, they do what they're supposed to do, and they leave. And we're still impacting them, but I want to know, I need feedback from them.
Right.
Great feedback.
Oh, that's great.
I really feel like we could be incorporating this more in our daily routine, or at least our weekly routine, where they're doing more recording their voices and submitting it, so we can at least check with them. Because when we do a voice test, it's kind of overwhelming to grade 540 voice tests.
Yeah.
And which we still do. And we do voice charting 4 times a year. I was just up in Milwaukee doing a session with some middle school boys on voice charting their voices. And we do that with our entire choir program 4 times a year. And it's not it's a big undertaking. It's 4 or 5 days worth of listening to every kid, finding their high note, their low note, what voice part they sing. But when you are able to do that and then place them into the choir where their voice fits the best, they'll learn music more quickly. They'll behave more quickly. There's nothing worse than putting a middle school boy, a 7th grade. I remember what I was like in 7th grade. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah.
If I didn't have something to keep me active, I was going to find something to keep me active. Yeah. And if they're not singing the voice part that fits their range, they can't participate.
Well, right.
And so, when I've got 40 7th grade boys sitting in front of me, I've got to make sure that they're participating and that they're active. So that's kind of a side note, but that's, one of the things that we do already to keep track of that. But I know that when we were up and running next year, the voice testing, if you want to call it that we're going to do, I think we're going to do more of it. And actually in class, the way we do it that takes less time in class is we have the full class sing a section, and then every other kid will sing into their iPad, record their voice, boop, 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 upload it to us, and then they switch, and every other kid. So we run the thing 3 times for any kid that has technology troubles, and then we have, in a matter of 6 or 7 minutes, every single kid has uploaded a voice test. Now that does a couple of things. That keeps them from having to sing by themselves.
Yes.
Which I know, even if with the trust and that we build up with kids, that's still difficult for a 12, 13, 14-year-old.
Yes.
And secondly, the other part of that is I can be in front of them conducting and showing them the things that we need from them when they're doing that voice test. So we're getting their best. And I've asked them, I said, which do you prefer? Oh, singing together in the iPad. And so I know that that's going to continue. And I think we have a clearer picture of what they're going through. Back to the original question again, what they're going through at home on their own. And then this is a way that we can help them through that process next year.
Yeah, excellent. Well, okay, now, you're able to use a lot of technology. Do you have any suggestions for the rural teacher? Maybe all they have is maybe they would able to maybe use Zoom, or, let's just say that they're able to use Zoom or FaceTime or whatever. And that's about it. The kids don't have iPads. Do you have any, suggestions on little things they could do? And you can work this in with any other teaching ideas, that are remote teaching. But I know a lot of teachers, and I'm from Missouri, I know a lot of those teachers have even horrible internet, and they're just struggling. So any little things they can do would be helpful.
Well, I would assume that if they have Zoom, if they're using Zoom, then there has to be a device of some sort that they're using. So what I've done, and we're doing some different. Our classroom right now, our remote classroom, sort of looks like our regular classroom. we start with the bell ringer. And for us right now, it's a pitch reading bell ringer. And so we use the program musictheory.net.
Okay.
You can set up parameters, treble clef only, no sharps, no flats, all the way up to grand staff, sharps, flats, key signatures, everything. And we have it leveled, and they sign on, they go in there and they do a bell ringer. And so whenever they decide their choir class begins right now, they'll sign in, they'll go to that first, and they'll spend 2 or 3 minutes naming pitches. The next thing we have them do is a warm-up session. And after the warm-ups, I'll get to that in a minute. After the warm-ups, then we're still having them learn a song. And I had a student email me and said, not to be rude, but why are we learning a song if we don't have a performance coming up? I said, you're not rude at all. I didn't take it that way. And I just said, what sports do you play? And you see where I'm going with this. I'm not sure that he did necessarily, but he said, well, I play lacrosse and football. I said, okay, that's great. I said, my guess is that outside of football season, you condition and you do weight training. And right now, since you can't be at lacrosse practice, you probably have the stick and the ball out in the driveway and you're working on your ball handling skills. This is why we warm up. This is why we're working on the song. We want to make sure that our conditioning stays and that our skills that we've been developing all year stay sharp, and not just stay sharp, but continue to develop. So the warm-up part of it, warming up has, I guess the exercises, developing the adolescent voice, that's been a passion for me since I started teaching. I took vocal pedagogy in college, and then again after I graduated, and then again 5 or 6 years later. And I read everything that I could get my hands on, because that minute you step in front of that first group of middle school kids or even high school kids as a teacher, you find out how little you know. And specifically about their voice and how to develop. I mean, I knew how to develop a college age voice. These warm-ups were great, but I would try to put them on to these middle school voice. I'm like, why can't they do this?
Right, exactly. That's Dan, that's really, really good. I like your just your idea of when he asked that question, why are we doing this? I think a lot of teachers right now are getting questions they don't know how to answer. And that's a wonderful answer for them.
Well, and it's not just that. I sent an email out to all my students last week, and I said, I know that you're thinking about why are we learning these songs, and the songs actually are we choose them for a reason. If we do throughout the course of the year, we do 4 different concerts, and during our competition time, our state competition time in March, we do primarily like festival music, contest music. Well, in the spring, we get a chance to do, it's kind of our pop show, and so the kids will do a pop ballad or like a Disney ballad, something like that, and then a choreographed song, and then each grade level they do 2 songs each, and then they do 1 song combined. And I found songs that have a pretty powerful text that's really important for a middle school kid. Our 6th graders do the arrangement Truly Brave. I don't know if you know this arrangement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Mac Huff.
Yes, it's Mac, yeah.
Brave by Sarah Bareilles, and True Colors. And what a message for these 6th graders. The 7th graders do Born This Way. And it's a really excellent arrangement. And the text, I mean, you're perfect the way you are. Doesn't a 7th grader need to hear that daily?
Right.
And then with the 8th graders for the combined, and we make a big deal out of our 8th grade spring concert, and we have auditions for solos, and it's something they look forward to for 3 years. And I tell you what, it's breaking my heart that they're not going to be able to do this year. Right. But they're doing For Good from Wicked. And we've been doing that since it came out as our combined, because again, that message, we weren't friends to begin with. We got close, and I'm better because I knew you. You changed me for the better and for good. And I tell them every year, there's a line in there about the handprint on my heart.
Right.
I said, I have thousands of handprints on my heart. And I said, I'm going to carry all of your handprints with me. for the next however many years, and if these kids are always asking, are you ever going to get a tattoo? I said, if I could get that tattoo, that representation of the handprints on my heart, that's what I would get. Of course, my wife says, you're not getting a tattoo.
You're not getting one. Well, I think it's exactly correct. Repertoire is so important with middle school. It's important, period. But especially middle school. And there's been a lot of talk about, the kids, and I think teachers are discovering, wow, I need to pick different repertoire because I'm having a hard time teaching now, or I've got great repertoire. This is working, long distance now, or getting their kids involved, picking repertoire for the fall. And what do they want to do?
Yeah. Well, and the other, I think maybe the most important thing of this is singing is good for your soul.
Yeah.
And it's, we go from a medium that it has to be this choral singing. Making music is something we do together, and we're trying to do it separated. And it's just, I feel like it's just ripping our hearts apart. But the ability to sing every day, that's why I've got them warming up every day. And I'll talk more about that in a minute, about the logistics of that. But just to sing that song and have that text maybe soak into them, it's really important for their soul that they're doing some sort of singing.
And they're missing it now. And I think in the fall, or whenever everybody gets back together, I think that first rehearsal will be magical for so many teachers. The kids are going to be like, we love you and we love everyone. We want to sing. We want to be together.
The first day, because we do some little singing the first day, but now we're going to have to spend that entire first day singing.
Yeah.
Moment.
Absolutely. Well, okay. Then if you have any other ideas, why don't you share them? Any teaching remote ideas that would be helpful before we go.
Yeah, I think the main focus that I've looked at, besides the learning of the songs, is that skill development and the conditioning part of it, our daily warm-ups. And so what I did was I recorded myself playing 11 different warm-ups on the piano, and I uploaded that into their Canvas. So they've got a link that they can connect to that into the Google Drive. And so their assignment is every day to pick 2 or 3 of these warm-ups, sing them, not record them or anything. They're just singing them on their own. And then they fill out a Google form that tells me which 2 or 3 that they did. And it's basically just a completion grade, because I know that we're in probably a lot of different areas with our administration as to what's expected of us grade-wise. And so I kind of wanted to hit the middle road where, yes, we are having assignments. Yes, we are grading things. It's primarily completion grade. And so the different warm-ups, they're hitting different skill sets like breathing, phonation, resonance, range development, support, diction. So they can pick different, it would be just as if they were in the classroom getting these same warm-ups. Now, I would say that the easiest part for me was recording the warm-ups and uploading them. If you don't have that ability, there are resources. I know that some people, there are some, well, in the warm-up book that I have out, there's
what is the name of that? Talk about that.
It's warm-ups for the adolescent. I should really know the title of my own book, shouldn't I? Warm-ups for changing voices.
There you go.
Building healthy middle school singers, and it's out through Hal Leonard. And there's a link that they can go, and all of the warm-ups are recorded. And so they can even probably use those, I would think, to have their kids sing along with. And so we have all these different options of warm-ups, but this is an idea that really isn't new to me. When I was directing church choir, I found out that my adult singers would come in after not singing for a week, and I'm expecting this from them when they barely have this. And so I made warm-up CDs for my adult church choir members, and it amazed me how much they used. they you know, they came in and they're like, this has been so much, so wonderful for me. I've been able to hit the high notes and just every aspect of their voice. And, you know, in working on that, it started to dawn on me that, you know, I've done some sessions on the aging voice as well.
Right.
With their voices kind of do this, and here's the adolescent voice here where it's starting to build up. There's a lot of similarities to when it starts to break down. And some of the same exercise that we do to help them through this transition can help them through that transition as well. And, you know, that whole use it or lose it thing, to a certain extent, because there are some physical things that are changing, but they can get some of their flexibility back and some of their range back and some of their strength back and breathing exercises. So that concept of here's a warm-up CD isn't new to me. I've used it before. Now it's with the middle school kids. And I guess the next level of that would be to have them record themselves doing those warm-ups and listen to that. But you know, again, that's a lot for them to be sitting in their home. I'm already asking them to sing by themselves, right, which is a hard thing for some kids to do, especially in maybe a home that doesn't ever sing.
Right.
And I know I've got students that are in that spot, and a lot of times you can tell the students that come in and they have a really difficult time matching pitch, even as a sixth grader. Yeah. And you know that you can tell there's not a lot of music or singing.
That hour with you is about it. That's when they do the singing.
Yeah. And so, you know, every part of that, just, it's good for their soul. It helps to bring out emotions, you know. So, but the voice building part of it is, that to me is the main focus as to why we're doing the warm-ups.
That is great. I think, you know, I've talked to teachers and I go, if nothing else, do warm-ups with your kids. Figure out a way that they are just using their voice and staying at it until you're back together again, if nothing else. And
yeah,
that's great. And there are tools like that. And I love your book. I think that's great. They can go right online once they have the book. They go online with their code, and they have all of that online, digital and MP3s and all of that.
The good news is it's not me playing the warm-ups, and it's an actual professional pianist.
All the better. But I'm sure they would take your, you know, abilities too. That's great. Well, I appreciate this, Dan. This is very helpful. There's a lot of takeaways here. And I have such respect for you, as do all the teachers in Indiana. You're very well known and very respected. And I appreciate the time that you've given me. And I hope this helps a lot of teachers.
I'll tell you, as a school teacher that's in the trenches doing this, I appreciate you. First of all, this that you're doing right now, this is an amazing resource for teachers that are out there struggling. And I know, you know, 2 choral directors in our classroom, and we have support from the band and the orchestra. We're a team. I know there's a lot of choral directors that are on an island. So this is such a great thing. And, you know, on a personal note, your arrangements and your compositions over the years have been a regular part of my classroom. And I've got thousands of students that have sung your music over the years. And it's just been so impactful for them. And I wanted to thank you personally for that.
That's very nice. I feel honored, and thank you. And if you ever, I would love to come visit your school sometime. I'd love to watch a rehearsal. That'd be great. So have me over sometime when we're all back together.
Set it up for the fall. We'll bring you in before the fall concert and you can work with the kids.
Great. Well, thank you, Dan.
Thanks,
I hope you enjoyed this, everyone. And look for his book. It's fantastic. And I know you've given us a lot of great ideas. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Greg. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks.